It was a second-round match at a WTA 500 tournament. No primetime slot, no special promotion. The kind of match most casual fans skip without thinking twice. And then 200,000 people showed up to watch it live. Bars in the Philippines filled up midweek. Watch parties formed in cities across Southeast Asia. Social media timelines flooded with clips, flags, and one name repeating over and over. And in boardrooms at some of the biggest sports companies in the world, people who had never paid serious attention to Eala were suddenly pulling up data and asking how they had missed her. That's where this story actually begins. Not with the match itself, but with the reaction that made it clear something much larger was already in motion. Eala grew up in a country where tennis courts are limited, basketball is religion, and the path to becoming a professional tennis player doesn't come with a blueprint. She didn't come out of the development pipeline that produces most top players. No elite American academy funding her early years, no major sponsors circling her before she had proven anything, no media platform building her image in advance. She won the US Open Junior Championship in 2022. On any list of signals that a player is worth watching, that one ranks near the top. It's one of the most competitive junior stages in the sport, and she handled the pressure the way future champions do. Not by avoiding the difficult moments, but by absorbing them. Tight sets, long rallies, high-stakes tie-breaks. She stayed composed when it mattered, and she won. She was training at the Rafa Nadal Academy. She was improving consistently. The data was there for anyone looking for it. Nobody looked. The system that was supposed to catch players like her was focused elsewhere. Brands were investing in prospects from markets they already understood. Familiar regions, familiar profiles, safe bets. Eala didn't fit that formula, so she stayed under the radar while quietly building credentials that should have made her impossible to ignore. That changed on a Tuesday afternoon when she walked onto a court ranked outside the top 100 and played a match that shifted the entire conversation. The opponent was more experienced, better ranked, and expected to win without much difficulty. The first set went to a tiebreak. Eala took it. Not by luck. She won the important points deliberately, under pressure, with the kind of focus that tells you the moment isn't too big for her. She broke serve early in the second set, kept control, stayed aggressive rather than defensive. Every game she won tightened something in the air, because by now the match was no longer low profile. The viewership numbers were climbing in real time, and people watching online could see them moving. When she closed it out in straight sets, she didn't explode. A clenched fist, a focused expression, no dramatic celebration, no performance for the cameras, just the quiet look of someone who had expected to be here all along. That reaction hit harder than any celebration would have, because it wasn't relief, it was confirmation. The Philippines erupted. Clips of her winners spread across every platform. The match had ended, but the reaction kept building, and for the brands that had passed on her, it was already too late to pretend they hadn't noticed. The data that surfaced in the hours after the match was the kind that makes executives uncomfortable. More than 200,000 live viewers for a second-round match at a mid-tier tournament. Social media engagement numbers that were outperforming top-ranked players with established global followings. Viewership concentrated in a region, Southeast Asia, that has over 600 million people, some of the highest social media usage rates in the world, and almost no major tennis figure they could connect to. Until now, inside major sports companies, the first reaction wasn't excitement about a new star. It was the specific, uncomfortable kind of concern that comes from realizing you made a mistake that someone else will benefit from. Emails went out, agents were contacted, internal meetings turned urgent. Some brands weren't even in a position to make formal offers yet. They were just trying to get close enough to understand the situation before a competitor locked it in. The Naomi Osaka comparison came up almost immediately. When Osaka won the US Open in 2018, brands hesitated. They waited for more evidence, and by the time they were ready to move, her market value had already multiplied. That lesson was supposed to have been learned. It clearly hadn't been. This time, the realization came faster. But fast doesn't mean smart, and the rush to suddenly show interest after years of none created its own problem. Because Eala's team was watching exactly that dynamic play out, and they had no intention of making it easy. What the brands discovered when they came calling was that the door wasn't locked, but it wasn't wide open either. Eala's camp didn't move quickly. There were no announcements, no rushed signings, no public indication that they were impressed by the sudden attention. What emerged from people close to the situation was that they were being deliberate, not looking for the biggest offer available, but for partners who actually understood what they were working with. That meant deals that respected her identity, her audience, and the region she represented. It meant creative input rather than just product placement. It meant something that felt like a real partnership rather than a brand trying to buy access to a market it had ignored for years. That posture changed the dynamic completely. Brands that came in with straightforward money offers found they weren't getting a straightforward response. The ones who were willing to offer more creative control, more authentic involvement, and a longer-term vision were getting further in the conversation. And for companies used to controlling the narrative around their athlete partners, that was an uncomfortable adjustment. Meanwhile, the conversation outside the boardrooms was running parallel and asking different questions entirely. On social media, the reaction to brands suddenly competing for Eala wasn't only celebration. A consistent thread kept appearing. Why now? People who had been following her since the junior circuit wanted to know where this attention was when she was winning at the US Open Juniors. Where were these companies when she was grinding through smaller tournaments with no platform and no backing? The timing made the interest look less like recognition and more like opportunism. And that perception, once it formed, spread quickly. A former professional player said publicly what many people were thinking privately, that if Eala had come from a different country, she would have had these opportunities years earlier. That comment traveled far, because it named something the sport doesn't often acknowledge directly, that where you come from affects how quickly the industry sees your value, even when your results say the same thing as a player from a more established market. The debate that followed didn't resolve cleanly. There were people who argued that brands follow visibility and returns, and that Eala's surge created new visibility that warranted new investment. That nothing unusual happened, but even that argument raised the follow-up question: if this level of attention was achievable, why wasn't anyone building toward it earlier? No one had a satisfying answer to that. What was happening on the ground in Southeast Asia didn't wait for the debate to settle. In the Philippines, tennis clubs were reporting increases in registrations. Kids who had never held a racket were asking about lessons. Schools were using her matches as content. For the first time, there was a player from the region competing at a level where young athletes could look at the screen and see someone who looked like them, came from where they came from, and was winning in one of the sport's most competitive environments. That kind of visibility creates something that no marketing campaign can manufacture. It creates belief. Across the region, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, the same shift was starting to show up in different forms. Equipment sales connected to her name were moving. Online engagement from Southeast Asia was climbing on tennis platforms that had never seen those numbers from the region before. The sport was gaining traction in a market it had largely neglected, and it was happening because of one person who had built her career without any of the support the system usually provides. That's the part that the scoreboard doesn't capture, and the deal announcements won't fully explain. Eala didn't just win a match and go viral, she demonstrated that the pipeline the tennis world uses to identify and develop talent had a significant blind spot, and that the market sitting on the other side of that blind spot was real, large, and ready. Whether she wins a Grand Slam or signs the most valuable endorsement deal in Southeast Asian sports history, or neither, the impact is already documented. The viewership data exists. The brand panic is on record. The growth in the Philippines is happening. She forced the system to react to something it should have been building toward for years. And the reaction itself revealed exactly how badly it had miscalculated. That's not the story of one match. That's the story of what happens when the right person wins at the right moment in a place the industry had decided wasn't worth paying attention to. Do you think the brands that are now rushing toward her actually deserve access to the market she built? Or did they forfeit that by being absent for years? Drop your take in the comments. Subscribe for more breakdowns on the moments that shift sports in ways the industry never sees coming.